Hello, bud.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay. Doing what I've always been doing. Searching. Seeking information.
Getting anywhere?
Yeah, I'm getting somewhere, all right. Getting somewhere.
Maybe I should get you to search for U.S. mail leaving Canada to go to Ogdensburg, half an hour away, and taking 7 days, and then on a return journey, the same envelope is still in transit. Wherever it is, I have no idea. But it left there on the 12th, and nobody knows its location. It just says in transit.
Well, it's getting, I guess they have to, I guess a number of people have to look through it, read it.
Well, that's what they said. You know, if you send the envelope by just ordinary mail, you put a stamp on it, it's $1.98. It takes 5 days. If you send it registered mail, it's 7 days and costs $14.95. So not only are a number of people looking at it, some of them are sticky-fingered and hanging on to it. But that's not the record. The record so far was an envelope held at customs in the U.S. coming to Ottawa. It took 19 days to make the journey for a registered letter addressed to a bank. Spent 13 of those days in U.S. customs before they let it out of the country.
I was thinking about, I know I've been thinking about your situation, and how everything kind of played out over the last 6 months, 7 months. On one of my, word searches, I was digging and looking up what Valkyrie meant, what the real meaning of Valkyrie is. And I've been reading on Norse mythology. A lot of telling things in there. But a Valkyrie, if I understand, like when you say the word, it's Valkyrie or Valkyries. So you got ruse, you have cur, and you got Val. And Val is like a word used a lot in that Norse mythology, because that's one of the...
valley.
Yeah, it's a going down under. It's veiling. It's all that stuff.
Cleavage.
Yeah. Cleavage, that's interesting too. But cur, the word inside Valkyrie, cur, comes from German, Latin, French, Latin, and German. It's Kother, and it's the English use it as like a term for a dog or a degenerate dog, a worthless degenerate dog. So this is how the system sees them. They're
bitches.
Yeah, but like they're also maidens too, maidens of Odin, and maiden comes from like a Swedish, I think. That language they use up there, Magden, I would pronounce it. Mag, Persia, but Magden is also it's a prostitute. It's not prostitute. It's servant, but maiden. Maiden's a servant.
Forget that May, M-A-I, is the month of May in French.
Oh, I was
close. The month of Mary celebrates virgin birth.
That's what I was going to get to. I was going to get to somebody linked to Mary is Magdalene or Magdalene. And the only difference between Magdalene and Magdan is A-L. So it's a male inside, a male prostitute.
Yeah.
Inside. So this is what the system thinks of these.
Porcelain, Magdalene.
Yeah. Yeah. And this, and another word with that word "cot" is linked to coterie. Set of persons, a group. So you got it's coterie around you of Valkyries, Glenn. That this is what the system thinks about them, but I don't think that so much about them. I think they have like the choice of their own.
Well, they're the freelancers. You have the followers of creation, followers of Creator, and the Valkyries are the freelancers. Creation, we know, is the real higher power. Creator is the hijacker. Women are the one who stole the information out of Creator's file. They're planning a different world than Creator is. Creator was planning a world run by Neanderthals, whereas Valkyries are planning a world run by themselves and their computers. Valkyrie is only complete when it finishes the process of remodifying woman. Final step in modifying woman is to make them triphibian. To do that, they have to have a gill, new access to the lungs. That means that the cleavage that they keep pushing down everybody's throat these days is the location where a new hole will appear that will, in fact, take in oxygen from water to allow them to operate underwater. That's why they called the team of women the Sea, S-E-A. They will be able to operate, and probably already are, because I think the technology for changing the body is being handled by McGill University. Basically means the son of Gill. So Masons are the guild, and the women are the gilded.
That's probably a hint at that too, because when I was looking at Valkyries stuff, I did like a search, not complete though, into mermaids.
Yeah.
And their role, and the whole the legend. It's just these mermaids who sitting that they're sirens, they call them, and they hold a mirror over the waves and a comb, and those two words pretty significant. Comb separates, and it's only one letter away from coma.
Yeah.
And coma is like lethargy.
And combi. Combination.
Yeah, combined.
Male, female.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to put that in there too. And that was, and lethargy comes from Lethe in Greek mythology. It was the river that went to hell, I think, that caused forgetfulness. But so like, it gets really deep when you look at like these figures, mermaids, how they.
Well, there are a number of people who have drowned over the years in swimming. The suggestion is that a person with a gill who can stay underwater would basically swim up to a swimmer grab them and pull them down until they drown. At the training for that is the water ballets done by women who participate in the Olympics to dance in a swimming pool.
Yeah, I just came from a belly dancing place. I was trying to go in there. I wanted to ask some questions about belly dancing. Because I don't know, I sent Jenny an email. I don't know if she looked at it a while ago. But it was, because when you look in Shinto, they have this, one of the stories was the sun goddess goes into a cave.
Yeah, but all of those stories are relating things since the flood.
Mm-hmm.
They're 5,000 years or younger.
Mm.
And that means matriarchal society, not matrial society.
Yeah, I was looking for like a clue, because there's this one clue, like maybe you'll see a clue, because there's a dance that they call it the mimic dance, or panto mimic dance, what they use to get the sun out. They use a mirror and this dance, and
but
the Mikado court uses that. What happened?
The real dance is called birth dance.
Mm.
Birth, if you recognize the word, an R can be an S.
Sorry?
Shit.
Oh. Oh.
Be shit.
Yeah.
So it's basically referring to coprolite, because they don't give the words that express the real meaning, but only their meaning.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember when you told me like ballet was the furthest away.
Yeah.
Watching a movie that came out in 1981. It's called Possession.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally, I don't know if you ever watched movies like that. It's surrealistic, very surreal. Like they put in, like you could tell the guy is an insider, but he puts it in such a way that because people are used to a format, beginning to end, and he puts it all like the surreal format. And there's this one scene, this woman who kind of represented like Wee Man, she was like in a ballet scene, and she was like torturing these girls, like making them stay still, and when I seen the scene, I was like, wow, he knows. He knows about that whole dancing thing.
Oh yeah, you have to think back to the time women were alone as hermaphrodites, and they had no language, and they had to communicate what they knew to the young girls, the maidens, and by dance they were mimicking birth and turning it into a joyful rather than painful set of conditions that if the girls did the dance, they would exercise the muscles that they would need during birthing. Get those muscles into kind of shape that they are needed to kind of roll the child out without pain. So that was the whole purpose. Of course, belly dancing was just the name attached to Asian dancing, but even the Asians today are taught history by corporate pipe carriers, opposed to the real storytellers of old. So they limit the age of that to the Ice Age and the Ark. In fact, if you go back in time, the period of time when this would be used would be anywhere from maximum they give for hermaphroditic women is about 130,000 BC down to 80,000 BC, so that's a 50,000-year period. I suggest it was more 115,000 BC, 35 period, which is a long time, but the numbers were not that big. Hermaphroditic women were basically telling young girls, this is how you go about reproducing yourself, and these are the muscles that need to be exercised. So there would be a dance showing that. That dance would be included in the people's DNA. That's what we hope will be called out and remembered by a number of women today who are probably women to some extent or other.
So I think all of them. I don't think any woman, even if the woman is aware, I think all what they call females today, I think all of them are women.
Well, if you look at Encyclopedia Britannica, and they give a condition of matter versus energy, a conversion that has occurred over 13.7 billion years, whereas most of what made up the universe, the beginning, was matter.
Yeah.
And it is now down to a minuscule amount compared to the beginning. What was matter is now energy.
Yeah. You said because that was bad time.
The word jur means yurt.
Yurt.
And that's a temporary house of God.
So what are you saying about my name, Jared?
Yeah, that's where your name comes from. Like Germany is many houses of God. So if you have energy, you have En, which is the symbol for 10, the new slave. The house Ger, energy, Y, 2 in 1. So male, female, hermaphrodite becomes one, house of God, and what is causing the universe to expand beyond its position point is energy. Basically, the end product. Creator, whether on purpose or by unintended consequence, ended up producing by throwing everything off its original timing.
Now that energy, are you talking, is that linked to sound? Is that linked
to? Well, everything that moves is basically energy.
So do you think that would be a good idea? Because I've seen some old books on the theory of sound. I wonder if I'll find any.
Well, Danny sent me the disc with notes, the key notes there that are involved in Close Encounters of a Third Kind and other things. Went to put it in my tape deck today, and it wouldn't open. There's a disc stuck inside the cilia. Trying to figure out how to get the goddamn door to pop. There's always something.
Yeah. I kind of learned this from you, man. Like, I don't get angry anymore.
Yeah.
Because if I get angry, I won't last too long.
Yeah, you'd have a nervous breakdown if you were angry all the time. Got to kind of go with the flow here.
Yeah.
And just one of these times when I'll push the button, it'll happen.
Yeah. Well, that sound. When you look at sound, from what I read about it, it's like they said there's three things in sound: pitch, intensity, and quality. They said, and Zen, one of their main things is intensity. They call it.
Yeah.
So maybe they had something to do with some type of science of sound or something. Because I find these monks, priesthoods, they seem to focus on these high sciences. Like, I found one guy, it's a Frenchman. I wrote it down somewhere around here, but he was the one who basically came out with sign language. And it was like him, he influenced another guy, a French guy who was born in America with that stuff. But it's interesting, the word sound that comes from, why would they call that, that narrow water a sound? Why would they link that?
I think one of the things that you'll learn when you start to study sound, that one of the original sounds created by living animals, the earth, purring of cats. They have basically two types of purring. One saying, "I love you." Another one says, "Feed me."
The two most important ones.
And
danger.
Those are the two things that men and women, sex and a sandwich for men, and security and security for females. So,
wow, man, that's
and that sound has been translated by the military being the drum. Drum comes, of course, from Africa and from native people, and so without realizing it, people have been listening to drums for years without realizing that it's really just the purring of a cat being reproduced, because the cats were the original dinosaurs. Right across the river from here, next to Ogdensburg, is a place called Fort Drum. They are in training now for jungle warfare. I suspect they know a little more about global warming than they're talking public. Would not be surprised at any time in the near future see a raid on Canada coming from Fort Drum. Once they realize the involvement that Canada has had in preparing their destruction. They're in the line of water coming from Lake Superior as well, because they're right at the end of Lake Ontario as it goes east into the St. Lawrence Seaway. One of the hopes that the people who are setting up that cleansing is that on the Canadian side, the Ontario Provincial Police at Orillia will be hit first, but downstream, Fort Drum would also be hit. Of Lake Ontario at a place called Watertown, or close to a place called Watertown. I suspect that a lot of Masons who have been told they'll find safety in Canada by getting on a subway-type vehicle underground in Manhattan and Philadelphia and Boston and along the coast will be directed towards the town called Oswego.
Yeah.
Oswego, and they will be taken under Lake Ontario and kept there. Whereas the ones with the real passes will go to Ogdensburg, a place where not very many people in their right mind would want to find themselves.
That word "us," I found it like it's a native. It's the first two letters of a Native American group. Somewhere, I think in Florida, something happened. Basically, they set up their own people to get killed.
Yeah.
And,
That's
us is another word. Huh?
That's what the system does. If you look at chess as a game, that's what the pawns are for.
Yep. And us, I looked up on Google. It said operating system.
Mm-hmm.
It's an operating system. That makes sense to me. But I remember when you a long time ago, and you were talking about Sousa, S-U-S-A in Persia.
Yeah.
But I seen that word in Shinto, Susanoo, the rain god, and I do. You think they were talking about the U.S. like they were personifying it or something like that?
Well, you're dealing with Shinto that basically was set up by American Jesuits.
Oh, wow.
They closed down Japan and worked on Japan for 200 years.
But wasn't Shinto before the Jesuits? Like, they have modern Shinto, maybe that.
Yeah, Shinto at the beginning was not a religion, but a cultural thing. But ever since the finding of coprolite, how to use coprolite to build a better medulla in the neck, became Shinto's religion. They work on the bonsai tree. Same principles were then applied to genetic engineering to get a better medulla.
Yeah, so you think was Shinto after Hinduism or around the same time? Or?
No, I think it all began with Hinduism. Went to China and then back to India. But once it arrived in China, there'd be a natural flow from the mainland to the peninsula, which is Korea, then hopscotching the islands. Eventually, those islands take you across the Bering Strait and down to Haida and Guai islands along the Pacific coast. So the journey to America was done from both sides. Eskimos come from Maui in South Africa. Their favorite dog, a black and white dog called Maui Muit. Muit.
Intuition.
If you change the M for a C, French word for cooking, cuit.
Yeah, cuit, yeah.
So it's cooked in Maui before they were sent to be Eskimos. They're like border guards.
See, I'm finding a lot of these links like you, Glenn, but obviously, you've been working at it longer. But I'm finding all these things that I kind of want to share with a lot of people because I'm like taking notes down. I got a journal, sort of. I just put it all down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to find a way to put it into a way people will understand it. Because I look at it and I understand it.
I think you understand it because it's closer to the edge of your intuition, whereas in most people it's buried much deeper. Having it in your intuition and getting it to your brain is a struggle for most people. Yours seems to be kind of surface, or made it easier, even though your hair wasn't long. Kind of circumvented the medulla.
They're like my hair is I'm using it. My hair is kind of long, but it's just that to get to the point where it's at my shoulders, it's gonna take twice as long as it would somebody who doesn't have like this African style hair.
But it may be that Africans have another enhancement someplace. It may be in the color of the skin. It may be the nerve endings that is slightly different. Once people grasp the premise, Africans to make sense of it faster.
But you don't see that many Africans making
No.
sense.
They all come here.
Exactly. And
there's another thing that has come into play from my memory. I remember sitting around a campfire with Algonquins and Huron, native people, back in 1902, I think it was. We had this think tank in the bush. Were to fast for 4 days, sleep in the trees during waking hours, hang around the campfire. One of the things that was told to me at the time, which I heard through one ear and discarded through the other, that human beings were not created Europe or Asia or Africa, as different people say, but that they were made aerial. Piece of property which we call the Bruce Peninsula is southwestern Ontario, the land of the Huron. And didn't make sense to me at the time. But if one stops thinking of Adam and Eve 6,000 years ago being the creation of human beings, starts thinking of it as being the creation of Caucasians, that it would make sense that they would want to grow those Caucasians paradise. Southwestern Ontario could certainly fill that bill. Then they said they were taken on a raft. If I remember correctly, the raft was concrete, brought to Africa, probably North Africa, carried across North Africa to Egypt, and then brought over to what is now southern Iraq. There wasn't as much water in the Gulf then, and could have all been unloaded there. So if you consider that there is a tunnel that extends from Giza to the Azores, the Atlantic Ocean, that distance, when replicated in exactly the same line direction, length and direction, ends at Sault Ste. Marie. Travels right under this farm here. Would, in fact, more likely than not, transport route, taking people that had been raised in a place where there were nobody else. The key is the letters UR, Ben Hur, used in the Middle East, the son of Hur, UR. Hur is the Huron Indian. They would have been descendants of the Inca that became Toltecs, Tolmecs, and eventually Aztecs. They came up the Mississippi River in Texas, Mississippi River, and up all the way to the base of Lake Michigan, which would make it quite possible for this to have been the path of the original people. Then set up a lab, made Caucasians white, and brought them back to the Middle East. It's something that I've been working on recently. What sounded silly at the beginning makes more and more sense to me. Would explain the importance of this farm to the Vikings. Would basically be the end product of implanting the golden hordes in the Middle East, moving into Russia on the western side of the Ural Mountains, into Finland, and eventually into Scandinavia, Holland and Belgium, that area. Vikings, being the Danes, would have written stories about sending groups of people, basically Ericsson, son of Eric the Red, Eric's son, his brothers and sister Frida, all made journeys claiming they missed Greenland on the way there, and they ended up going south along the coast of Labrador. Well, if you do that, you end up at Niagara Falls, into the Gulf of St. Lawrence if you're following the coast, not even seeing far enough to see land on the other side, which would be Newfoundland and the east coast of the United States would only have been seen on the way back if they were following the southern coast. Follow the northern coast from Labrador, and that's why it's called the door of the lab, on your way to that Bruce Peninsula. It has a lot of significance in masonry. Right now, there's an event that's occurring at a called Owen Sound, Georgian Bay. They are bringing in 32 used nuclear power station generators on the pretext that they want to send these for recycling, cleaning them and recycling the steel, Sweden. To get there, they would have to be put on ships 2 at a time, taken down the St. Lawrence Seaway out into the Gulf and across the Atlantic Ocean. But should there be a cataclysmic event, those generators haven't moved from where they are. Flood covers the entire area, and be certain one of the things that will flow freely along with water will be radon gas in the air. Look at Bhopal massacre in India and Chernobyl in Russia. There's a major difference between the two. Bhopal instantly killed something like 8,000 people overnight. Few stragglers from that point on died as a result of the event. I think it was 16 people got killed overnight or something. The rest of them died shortly thereafter. But Chernobyl was a much more destructive. Very few people in the area died. But the end product of the gas, radon, nuclear byproduct, traveling around the world, killed over 1 million people from cancer.
So it's like a slow death.
Yeah. That's what they're setting up right now, is bringing all these things to Owen Sound.
Why would they do that? But that suggests that they have a lot of time to.
It suggests that first of all, they can't move them because the people along the seaway are complaining they didn't do the proper evaluations of the possibilities of a ship blocking the seaway, some sinking there, and all of that stuff. So it all looks all theater. It's all been arranged. Seems to be heading towards a date of that first thing happening being sometime between the end of November this year and May next year. The ice freezing over of the St. Lawrence would be beneficiary to their plan, because as everything starts to melt, it adds more and more water, which can be used in the flooding and the movement of water and radon gas together would cover a large area south of the Great Lakes, probably all the way down to St. Louis, Missouri, taking in everything that is Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, Maine, all of the coastal states, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, going south, all seems to be set for that period of time, beginning of 2011. On the other hand, you have their story, which says it's going to be December 2012, and then in Masonry you have the Red Death.
Oh, the Red Death.
The Red Death is what.
Oh yeah.
Once you think you're out of it.
Yeah, it comes from the inside somewhere.
Yeah, it comes at you from an unexpected direction, but you get it anyways later on. So that would take care of 2013. Mm-hmm. So because their window is right up to 2016, anything is possible because it all comes down to when somebody pushes the button.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, go ahead. I could mail you.
Yeah, you can mail me.
Yeah, I think I want to mail you soon. Maybe this week, next week. This book I bought a while ago. Yeah. It's a Masonic allegory. It's called The Three Wonderful Beggars. It's a Serbian folktale. It's adopted from a Serbian.
Well, I'll need some wintertime reading.
This book is only it's like a little children. It's like 10, 15 pages, 20 pages, maybe. In big words. It's not it's like pictures and stuff.
I just received one from Megan called Tragedy and Hope.
Oh, that book. That's the history. That's the high story. That's more of like all the people who profited, and I have that book.
Yeah, you told me about that once before. Yeah. But it's got Bill Clinton on the back praising the book, and when Clinton says anything, you can just throw it in the garbage.
Yeah, yeah. This is stuff that Alan Watt, he really promoted. It's good in the beginning when you're learning about the history. And
was it an expensive book?
No, I think it was like $50, something like that.
Yeah.
It's an all right book.
I think Megan said $200.
$200.
It must come with some additional supplementary tidbits.
Yeah, it does have. Like the book. I think I paid $50. I'm not sure, but and it comes, and there's another book written by the same author called The Anglo-American Establishment, and this is basically going into the roads and all these people,
all the bankers stuff.
Yeah, bankers.
I know all of that stuff. I don't have to read the book.
Yeah, it tells you like the beginnings of like in Britain, like all the revolutions that that happened and who profited, like things that they leave out in school and they're teaching in history. This is stuff that Alan Watt
The word tragedy is interesting because it starts, if you forget the first letter, Raj.
Mirage.
The Raj.
Yeah.
The Hodge.
Yeah.
R-H. Hodge. Dodge. Anyways, I was supposed to call my darling wife and talk.
All right.
I'm going to have to leave you.
Okay, Glenn. It was nice talking to you. I guess till next time.
Keep in touch.
I will.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye for now, George.